What's up, Fantasy Champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network. Do you like the Oakland A's? Are you a fan of the Golden Knights? Do you love the Los Angeles Chargers? Well then, my friend, you're in the right place. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show with your host, Jake the Snake Silva, brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode on a Wednesday night. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show. Wherever and however you may be watching and listening to me tonight, we are live all over the social media grid through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And you can also follow me on Instagram for all of the latest news and, of course, also keeping you up to date on all of the latest future and even watch past segments as well to keep you up to date. We're live on all media platforms. And, of course, as we mentioned, Spotlight Sports Network, ASAP Network, all over the place. Oh, it's such a great night to be here on a Wednesday. We've got week 2 around the corner in the NFL, and we've got a really good game Thursday night. That is the Giants and the Washington football team. So there's a lot of things that we're catching up to. What's going on, Coach Donte, our very own Donte here on the Spotlight Sports Network, covering you up on all Houston sports. Key in the building, and of course, my good friend Jeremy Case at Case by Case Sports Show. You can definitely check him out at all Denver sports, Nuggets, Broncos, and of course, you also got the San Francisco Giants and the Seattle Kraken this year. So, man, week 1 gave us a lot, but at the same time, it opened our eyes. So let me just start with this because, look, we've been through this several times. And I'm telling you, it's kind of getting to the point where it's old. And I don't understand why we just continuously just revert back to this every time. But last night, Monday night, you had, I thought that was a fun game. It was action-packed, down the street, out at Vegas, out in Allegiant Stadium. And the Raiders won. But here's what I'm going to tell you, which is one of the things that has made me so critical about the Raiders. Because first of all, even if they won on overtime, there were a few situations in that Raiders core that should have never got them into this position. And mind you, this is an injury-brittled Baltimore Ravens team. And we've had this discussion in the past couple segments because part of me wants to believe the Raiders are a tough team. But when I watched that defense last night, Max Crosby, Carl Nassib, and of course, Yannick Ngakoue. That was a really, really good defensive front for the Raiders. There are still adjustments that need to be made on the secondaries, but they're only going to get better in the next couple of weeks. This is the thought. The thought about the Raiders, even with a win against Lamar Jackson, there are a few truths to this. Let me just tell you this. My thought about the Raiders that Monday night, this is going to be one of those rocky seasons where it's do or die to get to the playoffs. It really is. You know the limitations that you're going to get with John Gruden. And you also know exactly how the play style and what it's going to take for that offense to score points. Regardless of everything, all you know is that the favorite targets that has been better than all of the rest of the league outside of Brady and Gronk, Derek Carr and Darren Waller. That's the best duo that you have with this Raiders core. And then you've got everybody else. Josh Jacobs can run the football real well, but Henry Ruggs can disappear at times. Bryan Edwards, not enough targets. So who do you really trust? I mean, this is kind of like Derek Carr, Darren Waller, and the Raiders. That's really all that it looks like when it comes to the offense. And by the way, the offensive line had a bunch of miscues that Monday night. This is why it's not going to be easy for the Raiders to get to the playoffs. It's not. Even though they're riding this momentum ship. And this upcoming week, they got the Steelers. The Steelers are not that great themselves. But if you look at situational football, the only thing I like, and by the way, by the end of the hour, I got week 2 of Prime Predictions. It's always my favorite segment in the show. But I'll tell you, I'll give it away. Raiders and Steelers, that is a 5.5 point favorite to the Steelers. What's that telling you? It's basically telling you they're riding this ship with Big Ben and thinking that him and Chase Claypool are going to score a lot of points. Pittsburgh only scored 23 last week. This is against a tough Buffalo defense. This is against Josh Allen. So a lot of this is dealing with that Pittsburgh is dying to score points. A different offensive line. This is where the Raiders' defensive line is going to completely just pummel them. And I'm going to take the 5.5. I'm going to take the 5.5 underdog with the Raiders. The point of this is that it's almost mismatched. But because of the momentum train that I saw from Monday night for the Raiders, this is the kind of thing where it's a rocky season. But it's do or die to get to the playoffs. And again, and I have to say this over and over and over again, because a lot of this is rallying around Derek Carr. What more do you want out of him? He is an efficient quarterback that I will tell you this. He's not better than Mahomes. He's not better than Brady. He's not better than Russell Wilson. He's not better than some of these top dog quarterbacks. But you put him in a system, like hypothetically speaking, let's take, for example, the Colts. The Colts will have a really, really good offense with a really good offensive line that gives Carr time to throw. What about Washington? All they need is a quarterback. And they've got the offensive pieces and a defense that can back him up. Derek Carr can get the job done. You know what the thing that's limiting Derek Carr majority of the time is? John Gruden's play calling. This is why that they should not have been in the position that they were in Monday night. Regardless win or loss, things like this is where you have to tighten it up. That's my that's my vocal truth about the Raiders. They're such a good team. I look at this roster. There are a couple of Pro Bowlers. There's a couple of really good players that I think could really step up. I mean, I love watching Hunter Renfrow in the red zone. But after seeing what I saw Monday night, I mean, it's a really good win. Fans were back in the stands in Allegiant. I mean, the whole ground was shaking because a lot of people were just happy the Raiders were playing and they're happy to have fans. But you have to see this from a season stretch. You're going up against Pittsburgh and you've got a couple of other teams afterward, and it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting all throughout the season. But again, enough with this Derek Carr talk, because ultimately the Raiders would be irrelevant without Derek Carr. They would be irrelevant if this continues this type of play calling. And all it's going to take is knowing your roster, trusting all the players on your roster, and make things work. All right, let's talk about the truth about Lamar Jackson. So this is a tough season right now for the Baltimore Ravens. We know this. Out of all the quarterbacks in this league, only a few, regardless if it's a solid start and regardless of the adversities, you have to be able to overcome a lot of adversities in this league. Justin Herbert had the third worst offensive line in front of him, but came away with a 99.6 quarterback rating under pressure. Tom Brady leaves New England, goes to Tampa, has a better offensive line. No practice, no OTAs, no preseason last year due to COVID. Things were kind of shaky and rocky, but by the time the bye week came around, everybody studied. Everyone got better. They became Super Bowl champs. What about there were a couple of other quarterbacks who have overcome a lot of different adversities. And by the way, that Monday night with Derek Carr, in late game situations when you need a throw, when you need time to throw to score points, this is the difference with Lamar Jackson and a lot of these other quarterbacks. Think of it this way. You watch Baker Mayfield the past weekend against Patrick Mahomes. All he needed was a few minutes to complete passes, get first downs, get downfield, and score points, trusting the group you have, but was intimidated by Kansas City's defense and by Andy Reid and by Patrick Mahomes. Baker still has things to prove, but this is why the Cleveland hasn't given him an extension. Lamar Jackson is such a talented player, but is only talented until they're trailing. When they're trailing in games, Lamar's not the same. But if you give him a lead, he's unstoppable. The whole team's got juice, they're confident, and they could play shutdown. Baltimore was without majority of their run game, was without majority of their defense, not to mention a couple of other offensive pieces. And as far as the flow of the game, this is where I still have mixed emotions for Baltimore. They're such a good team when they're healthy, but maybe this is also a sign when it comes to overcoming adversities, what Lamar Jackson's really made of. And again, you talk about a former MVP. You talk about someone who's just fast out of the pocket, loves to utilize his feet. But I saw it all that Monday night. Quarterbacks were so tight end reliant that it's pretty much predictable. A lot of these plays here and there were all for tight ends. Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, Derek Carr and Darren Waller. But the difference throughout the game, Derek Carr may not have the best start throughout the first half, but outside of Tom Brady, and I've said this several times, he's the one quarterback that if you give him 2 minutes in the pocket, he's going to get you downfield. I've seen this several times in his career. This is where the efficiency comes from. But the only thing that limits him is the play calling. Is it really Derek Carr, or is it really just somebody who's got the strings tied that forces him to not be able to make throws, that kind of pulls him back? Lamar Jackson utilizes his feet a lot. But this was the question by this season, because they go and they draft themselves a wide receiver from Minnesota, Rashad Bateman, and they go and get Sammy Watkins, and they get a couple other pieces because they needed size, they needed length, they needed somebody that can catch the over-the-top passes. Because we've seen this over and over again between him and Marquise Brown, where if he gets open, he'll throw downfield. And Marquise Brown's got really good speed. But all you have to look at, Baltimore, this is the toughest start they've ever had to deal with this season. But it's not, this is a no excuse league. You have to overcome adversities. You have to do better and play better. That's only going to, it's only going to strengthen your confidence. And at the same time, this is why Russell Wilson is so good at what he does. This is why Tom Brady is so good at what he does. Even Drew Brees, Derek Carr. When you need points and you need to get downfield, only a few minutes is all it's going to take you. But this is part of the reason and the realities that we look at with Lamar Jackson. Plays really good. You just cannot have him trail. It's the same story when it comes to Baker Mayfield. The second you trail, it's harder to get back into the game. It is. And Tom Brady's been doing this for a long, long time. Young quarterbacks, this is only just the beginning of it. But that is where they're only going to get better the more and more they play games like this, they evaluate tapes, and who knows? Lamar may come out with something by next week, and he may actually be better. But sometimes it's not as easy as it comes. Injuries happen all the time, but that's the reality in the NFL. Coming up next, this is kind of interesting. And I'm thinking for the NBA, because again, it's right around the corner. And the only thing that I can think of is how are the Lakers really going to start to overcome a lot of these? They're going to have to overcome a lot. And I said this over and over again. This is a team that you look at by the age range. Majority of their players are going to get hurt. There are a few things that the Lakers really need to thoroughly evaluate if they want to be able to make to the playoffs. I'll explain the rest of all of that coming up next. And we've got NHL around the corner. There are a lot of things to really look at when it comes to hockey. But this will be a much bigger, better season. And there's a lot of different storylines. So for all of my fantasy football competitors out there, wherever you may be, far and wide, coast to coast, you guys love fantasy play, and you guys also love winning cold hard cash. Well, there is a place that you can go to that you can win cold hard cash, but also have a lot of fun in some of these pool plays that are uploaded every week. Like I said, week 1, there was 100K in pool plays, and they're reloading it every week. You guys are missing out on this opportunity. Go online or download on your mobile device through Google Play in the App Store called Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy has pool plays from top to bottom. All your favorite sports, even esports for all of our diehard gamers out there. Place your bets, sign yourselves up, deposit $20. But when you do, use the promo code SS Network, and Thrive Fantasy will match your 20 into $50 of play. So there's more time for you to play, more time for you to have all the fun and win cold hard cash as well in the process. What are you guys waiting for? Get yourself signed up and start playing today. ThriveFantasy.com. The promo code SS Network. ThriveFantasy.com. That's promo code SS Network.
Raider J77, your place for all things Raiders and all things Trailblazers. Brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Now let's go.
Once a Raider, bruh, always a Raider, bruh. Shit simple as that. You look silver and black. Lot of bread invested in that O-line. Car insurance cost the arm and a leg to reach that goal line. It's go time.
But I know that's just in my mind. I know everything is just in my mind. Do you really want to be famous? Do you really want to be a superstar? Do you really want to get dangerous? Do you even know where the groupies are? Bitches out here be-
Welcome to Hammer's house.
Man, oh man, guys, there's a lot that I could, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up here up on next week. Jake the Snake Silva here, back on the Snake Sports Talk Show. And by the way, before I forget, you guys want to rep up the network and, of course, rep for your favorite shows on the network. Well, you can always go online to the network's links. Link is in the bio. Definitely check out the merchandise section powered by Spreadshirt and get yourselves geared up because cold season's coming around the corner. I'm going to get myself a hoodie for sure. There's hoodies, hats, T-shirts, so much more that you guys can shop for on the network's website. Link is in the bio, and all of our merchandise is powered up by Spreadshirt. So, first of all, next week, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're on episode 98, actually, tonight. We're 2 more episodes away from hitting the lucky 100. And it really does put a smile up onto my face. I'll explain a little bit more up on it after this segment. But, it's really kind of this NBA season's really got me critically thinking. Because I'm looking at every single one of the teams. And I'm looking at all the possibilities. First of all, the Eastern Conference, the only thing that most teams there, what they have to worry about is how they're going to basically get past the Milwaukee Bucks. Boston, I know for a fact they got to clean up their mess and they got to get better than what last year showed. The Sixers right now, they're kind of in a mess of their own with this Ben Simmons stuff. But they still have a good team outside of him. Joel Embiid had a healthy season and was much, much better. And you had bits and pieces of Tobias Harris. But outside of that, there are still a few things I have concern for the Sixers. And then there's Atlanta, Trae Young, Clint Capella. It's a young core group. It's only going to get better. And this was a team that finished up in the Eastern Conference Final last year. There is so many stories that are kind of predictable in the Eastern Conference. In the West, here's the difference. You still are dealing with Kawhi and Paul George with the Clippers. only a matter of time until Luka gets a superstar next to him in Dallas, but they'll still be a competitive team. They've got a real good roster. They could probably beef up and get a little bit better in perimeters and maybe have a couple of bench role players, but they actually look really decent. You got the Jazz, where honestly, it's like do or die moment for them. I know what I'm getting out of Donovan Mitchell, and I know what I'm getting out of Rudy Gobert, but outside of them, everybody else has got to contribute. Phoenix last year, they made it into the finals. Devin Booker, I thought, was much, much better of a shooter. And Chris Paul, it showed you what his leadership means to this team. But is he worth the money he was paid? Only time will tell. But outside of that, the concern I have is with, obviously, the Lakers. LeBron James wanted Anthony Davis. And in he comes, and they win a championship in the bubble last year, in the year prior. But the only problem that they dealt with, injuries, inconsistencies, and now this storyline going into this new season is now, who are you really going to rely on this roster besides LeBron? Anthony Davis is such a good kid. I think he's a hell of a ball player, but sometimes his style of play gets the best of him. That's where he's got majority of his injuries, and he did it again this past year. They go and they get Rajon Rondo back, Dwight Howard back. They traded away Pau Gasol, and all of this. Now they go and get Carmelo Anthony. They go and get a lot of these older veterans, which I'll be honest, some of these guys are past their prime. They're not as good as what they once were. I'm not knocking on any of them. But if you look at the Lakers, I know this Laker franchise has always been built upon veteran leadership. That has always been the style of the brand. Never have they taken the time to build young kids, young rookies. The only one that they got lucky with was Kobe Bryant. Okay, after the trade with Charlotte, they then go and get this young kid out of Lower Merion, and he's a superstar. And that's what built the Lakers dynasty after Magic. There was the Shaq years, then the Pau Gasol years. But you know what's funny is that out of them, there were so many veterans on that whole roster, but only a few young ones. Jordan Farmar, Vladimir Radmanovich, D'Angelo Russell, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, but all of them gone. Even Julius Randle. So this kind of concerns me about the Lakers of what exactly is their direction. Mind you, if there's any similarity I saw with this group almost reminds me of the 2008 New York Yankees. It does. Because 2008 was the final season in Yankee Stadium before they built the brand new one. All their veterans were Bobby Abreu, Mike Mussina. They had Jason Giambi. They had every single veteran there. But the toughest part is that there was hardly any young blood in their organization. The only one who was young was a younger Melky Cabrera. That was it. Everybody else was, well, you either do your job or we're sending you down to the minors or you're going to get cut. You're going to be done. That was kind of how it was. This Lakers group almost reminds me of a 2008 New York Yankees. Full of veterans, not enough young kids, not enough young blood. So it makes me concerned that when injuries pile up, because you have guys that are past their primes, they really can't end up showing up like they used to, and how they'll finish, because you got Golden State who's pissed off and they want to be back into the playoffs. You've got Utah who's young and hungry. You've got Denver who's only going to get better, and you'll have a healthier Jamal Murray along the way. You've also got the Clippers. You got Kawhi. There are so many things happening in the West that all they're trying to do is they're strengthening to get better than the Lakers. That's all they're doing. The Lakers had a couple of young core guys, and then they got rid of all of them. Now they're just filled with older veterans. I'm telling you, it almost looks like a senior home it almost looks like a senior home for multi-time all-stars, guys that are past the prime, and they really can't keep up. LeBron is the exception to the rule because of the fact of he stays healthy majority of the time. He's super over-reliant, and he's a guy that's a Swiss Army knife. Outside of that, you don't have anybody who's reliable on this roster. This is what kills the Lakers' opportunities of really just staying healthy all throughout the season. And it's going to be one of those years. I just don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know what's going to happen. And the only thing is, all I have to do is they have to be smarter and execute within the perimeter. They have to be very defensively aggressive when it comes to defending the wing, getting second chance shots, rebounds, utilize the time. The fact of the matter is everybody, I feel like, is going to have shortened amount of time. They're going to utilize everybody from top to bottom on this roster, but at the end of the day, you're going to get tired and wore out. The point of having young core kids is because you need them to utilize time. You need them to utilize shot percentages, all this stuff. This is why you look at Utah, you look at Golden State, you look at a lot of these teams. It's only gonna get worse from here if you can't address it. But this is kind of the truth and reality of the Lakers. They remind me of the 2008 New York Yankees, and I'm telling you, this will be a team. They may try to make the playoffs, but it will not be as easy because Phoenix got better. Golden State's getting better. The Clippers are getting better. The Utah Jazz are getting younger and hungrier. And Denver is only going to try to get healthier. So good luck with having to run with this group, and good luck trying to make the playoffs. Time now for the hot press. All right, so news, of course, because since we're getting into week 2 of the new season, hold on one second. There we go. So since we're getting into the new week of the NFL season, the Dallas Cowboys ended up getting hit with some news. So their star defensive end, DeMarcus Lawrence, suffered a broken foot and is going to end up missing 6 to 8 weeks. So Dallas is without their pass rusher, and it's going to be tough. So they're going to be also without Randy Gregory. So 2 pass rushers for the Dallas Cowboys. That's a big hit. That's a big hit for them. That means that there's going to be an overload between Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, and a couple of other pass rushers that need to step up. And you're facing against the Chargers this week, who had a 12% pressure in that pocket. They had the fewest pressures that was given to Justin Herbert. And this is against a tough Washington team, against Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jermaine Davis, Bostic. So Dallas, and again, I have my prime predictions, and I'm going to give you exactly what they are, but losing to Marcus Lawrence right like that, that's going to be tough. And Dallas, I'm afraid of this secondary and how they're going to perform, but this is kind of a tough reality right now for the Dallas Cowboys, and hopefully DeMarcus Lawrence will be healthy and get a speedy recovery off this foot injury. But you kind of know exactly what you're going to get with Dallas's defense. So despite the loss Monday night for the Baltimore Ravens and for Lamar Jackson, after the Raiders coming back and winning in overtime, Lamar Jackson's heading into week 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. He said he's not dwelling on the past losses as the Baltimore Ravens prepare to face Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So the toughest thing is for the Baltimore Ravens, they're winless against Kansas City and they're winless against Patrick Mahomes. That's the toughest, again, it's the toughest matchup. We saw this last year and how they performed, and Patrick Mahomes was just walking all over Baltimore. And Lamar was so much in pressure that Andy Reid kind of knew the schematics of what John Harbaugh was trying to implement, and at the same time, was so uncomfortable in the pocket. They forced him to throw, no running lanes. That was kind of the whole point. So Lamar Jackson's 0-3 against Patrick Mahomes, and in the past, and he was losing to him in each of the past 3 seasons, while also going 30-5 against the rest of the NFL. So this is a tough fork in the road for Baltimore and for Lamar Jackson. But he ended up mentioning here in today's practice, said, it's not about me and Mahomes, not to me, probably to everyone else, but it's the Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I love the maturity of Lamar Jackson, but as I said, the performance you saw from against the Raiders, that was a lot of adversity. It was a lot of injuries you had to overcome. But and Kansas City's defense is not atrocious. It's still a good defense. It's not a great one. But at the same time, you gotta end up overcoming those challenges. And who knows if Lamar Jackson can. Kansas City's not an easy opponent. So if he loses out to this one, it'll be tough. Tough news for the Raiders, though, after Monday night's win. So the Raiders got hit with some big-time news that their defensive tackle, Gerald McCoy, is having another season-ending injury. Per the sources, he announced that he had sustained a knee injury during Monday Night Football. And also offensive lineman Denzel Good were officially put on the injured reserve list. This was reported from Ian Rappaport. The 33-year-old Pro Bowler is going to miss. He missed all of 2020 after rupturing his quad in practice with the Dallas Cowboys. And now, after playing 9 snaps, he's in the reserves for the Raiders and was carted off after an injury. That's a tough blow. I feel like though this may be it for Gerald McCoy. He was such a really, really good player. Loved watching him play, but this is a crushing blow when you get a knee injury and not to mention a quad. So what the Raiders ended up doing a little later on was they ended up signing former Chargers defensive tackle Damian Square from the Bears practice squad on Tuesday to help to replace the injured Gerald McCoy. But hopefully, they'll fill in the issue, and I think they'll be just fine against the Steelers, because the Steelers' offensive line, after what I saw from last week, was not that great against Buffalo. It was terrible. But who knows? I mean, you still have Max Crosby, Yannick Ngakoue, who I thought were really, really good on defensive pressures, and they were rushing in through that offensive line. So I liked what they were doing, and again, I think they're going to be a lot better. I think they'll be fine, and I'm going to take the Raiders against Pittsburgh. So here was what was interesting, and I'll talk a little bit about this. But Urban Meyer, before taking the Jaguars coaching job, had an interest of USC coaching rumors, and after hearing about that, Urban Meyer said there's no chance that he's going to end up coaching the USC Trojans after firing Clay Helton. And there was just a lot of things that were just kind of going on from there. But some of those rumor stories, Urban Meyer, I don't think is going to leave the NFL, because the second you end up getting paid, you're in a new project. You wouldn't want to leave it now. So USC, they're going to have to search other corners to find a different coach. So, all right, that was the hot press. Coming up next, it's my favorite segment of all, and it's week 2, folks, that I'm going to be preparing here for all of you guys. Week 2's prime predictions while we take a break. We'll have more stuff coming up on the way. It's the Snake Sports Talk Show.
What's up, fantasy champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
All righty, folks. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank every single one of you guys for joining me here tonight. Man, it's been a lot of fun. And again, week 2 of the NFL season, not sure exactly what to think of, but man, did we get a lot of stories from week 2 or from week 1. So I'm ready for week 2. And I hope all of you guys have a great night, enjoying the rest of your week. And we can't wait for tomorrow, and we can't wait for Sunday and Monday to come around the corner. Week 2 of the NFL season. I'm ready for it. And I'm also ready for what's hot in prime predictions for week 2. I got a lot of stuff. And I learned a lot from what week 1 gave us big time. So without further ado, we're going to start off with the Snake Sports Talk Show's favorite segment, Jake's Prime Predictions. Week 2, here we go. So, of course, it kicks us off in Thursday night's game between the Washington football team and the New York Giants. I'm going to take Washington in this game at the -3. First of all, what did we learn about the Giants? They are coming off last week to a tough Denver defense that just put Daniel Jones under so much duress. 13 points, that was what they were limited to. And it's not going to be any better against Washington this next week, because you've got Montez Sweat, Chase Young, and a really good Washington secondary that they are going to give Daniel Jones a tough time. And by the way, not only did Daniel Jones not produce, but Saquon Barkley was not that really good. But maybe there were a couple of times where you watch the run defense. They're going to try to clean things up. Washington learned a lot against the Chargers last week in that loss. But other than that, it was such a defensive game. I'm going to take the Washington football team. Taylor Heineke is starting as quarterback this Thursday night. And I'm going to take Washington to win against the Giants 27-20. I just think Daniel Jones is going to be in back-to-back weeks where he's facing tough defenses. Tough for me to say this, but I'm going to take the underdog Bengals at +3 against Chicago. First of all, that defense was exposed last week against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. And by the way, last week, I saw a healthy Joe Burrow connected to Jamar Chase twice in the game, and they were really, really something. So what is it telling me right now of what the storyline is going to be for Chicago? They have got to clean things up against Cincinnati this week. But the only things that still scare me is that offensive line. But I loved what I saw from Joe Burrow. I thought he threw really, really good. I thought he was efficient. And it's only going to get better from here for Cincinnati. They got the first win this week from the past week. I feel like they might come into Chicago. It's tougher weather, but Joe Burrow, nothing that he's intimidated by from that. So +3 in the underdog, I like it. That's all I need is 3 points. I'm going to take Cincinnati over Chicago, win 27-24, because at some point Chicago has got to do something with Justin Fields, and they have got to do something to get themselves back to leads. Well, it was nice to see Houston get a win over Jacksonville, but it's not going to be that easy against Cleveland. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns at -12.5. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points to swallow right there against the Houston team. They got a lot of veterans. You can't deny it. But Cleveland, they're not going to hinder off the loss against Kansas City. That was the spark that's going to get them to be better. So, and again, that defensive game was really, really good. They held the leads, but until Patrick Mahomes does what he does best, this is where Baker Mayfield, he's got to learn it from there. So I think coming in against Houston at home is going to be a lot better. I'm going to take Cleveland -12.5. They'll win it 35-20 over the Texans. Boy, what a beauty of a performance from a debut from Matthew Stafford in LA. I loved what I saw from their offense. And you know what? It's only going to get better against the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to take the Rams at -4. As I said before, the Colts are in a shaky start of the season. And who knows how they're going to end up performing against a tough Rams offense that you saw a lot of deep ball throws from Matthew Stafford, connected with Robert Woods, connected with Cooper Kupp. So this tells me that Sean McVay is buying into this whole thing. He's buying into this entire Matthew Stafford project. And that was a really, really good performance against Chicago. Now, Indianapolis had a tough outing this past week. But other than that, the Colts can play hardball. I think it's still going to be at least a close, tight game, but I do see Matthew Stafford putting up numbers like he did last week. So I'm going to take the Rams to win it 28-23 -4. That's fine with me, but it's going to be a lot of fun watching both these teams tango on Sunday. Nothing like an AFC East matchup from here. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to on the road against Miami at a -3. Okay, listen. Here's what you need to know about Buffalo. They are not going to hinder their loss against Pittsburgh. They're not going to bury their head in the sands. That was a tough loss. But think about how much points they really gave up, 23. It would be a different story if they gave up 35. It was not a bad loss for Buffalo, but it was tough because of the fact of it's a brand new season. But against Miami, by the way, it's not going to be an easy game for Miami either, because think about it. They're coming off of another team from the AFC East, the New England Patriots, that they only got 17 points out of that game. And Miami was lucky enough that through defensive schematics, they were able to shut it down and win the game against New England. But for Buffalo, it'll be different. Buffalo's going to come in pissed off after a loss, but they're going to get better. So I'm going to take Buffalo. I think they'll rebound after the loss against Pittsburgh, -3, and I'm going to take a 27-21 game because I do think Miami's going to come away with some scores, but Buffalo's going to be the one to get the job done. Tough showing for Zach Wilson this past week, but I'm going to take the New England Patriots at -5.5 on the road against the Jets. Listen, we learned a lot about Mac Jones, and we know what he's capable of, what his strengths are. I really liked what I saw from the performances. There were a couple of tweaks that needed to be added for the Patriots to be better. But I like what they're doing with Mac Jones. Bill Belichick is a trustworthy coach. You got a new coach on the Jets side with Robert Saleh. That is tough. And by the way, don't sleep on this. But when Belichick faces rookie quarterbacks, he has a better record. Zach Wilson could be in situations where he could be under a lot of duress. So expect that to happen. But I do think Zach Wilson will put up some good numbers. It wasn't too bad last week. But the Jets, it's tough for back-to-back weeks where you've got tough opponents. I'm going to take the Patriots on the road to win at -5.5. Take a 27-20 win over the Jets on the road. But I do think the Jets are going to end up scoring some points as well in the outcome. Well, Philadelphia had a really good day last week for Jalen Hurts and the rest of that offense. They absolutely pummeled the Atlanta Falcons and their new offense. But you know what? It's going to be a tougher showing against this tough 49ers defense that's fully healthy. I'm going to take the 49ers at -3.5. I love what I saw out of Jalen Hurts, and I love what I saw out of the offense. It's younger, it's faster, but you are talking about a San Francisco defense that they get, and their outcome, it was a little bit of experimenting. It was tough because they gave up a lot of points against Detroit, but I guarantee you they're not going to have that happen again. But the offense looked really good. Trey Lance, he looks comfortable. He looks like he's going to be growing into this system beautifully. I like their chances. But San Francisco, it's going to be a really good game. Tough outing for Philadelphia, but I still will think it'll be competitive at the end of the day. So San Francisco -3.5. I'm going to take the points there, and I'm going to have San Francisco win this game by at least a 5-point margin, 28-23. It's only fair for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles that they got really good on offense. So I do think they're going to score some. Listen, folks, don't rush into conclusions very, very easily, okay? And I know that Pittsburgh's got a couple of really good components, but Pittsburgh only put up 23 points against Buffalo last week. I'm going to take the Raiders at plus 5.5. Here's the thing. Raiders, what they've got is they've got two really good pass rushers, Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue. I loved what they've done. And the only thing that is only going to give Pittsburgh problems is that D-line. The secondaries are only going to get better through a couple of situational plays, but Gus Bradley's got this thing under control. Other than that, the Raiders with Derek Carr and Darren Waller, they've got to mix up some pieces. That's the concern I have with the Raiders. But other than that, I'm not too sure about this Pittsburgh offensive line. They really haven't produced a whole lot from last week, especially on the ground games for Najee Harris. And they're going to be Big Ben reliant. So I'm going to take the Raiders at 5.5, underdog, risky. But you know what, though? Who doesn't like a little risky play? I'm going to take them to win 28-23 on the road in Pittsburgh. Not that easy, but I think the Raiders are going to rally with their win last week against Baltimore. You all are going to call me crazy and nuts, but you know what, though? I like the outing that I saw from both of these teams. But to go on the road to Carolina, this is going to be an interesting matchup. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers at minus 3.5. Sam Darnold won his revenge game match. Now, there were a few things that pointed out to me. Listen, New Orleans was kind of surprised that they came across a tough Green Bay team that they only put up 3 points. That was embarrassing last week from the Packers. But Carolina, it's going to be a different story. It's a younger, rebuilding group. It's going to get better. You're going to get a lot of really good touches from Christian McCaffrey in the end of the day. But, man, it's going to be interesting to see Jameis Winston and Sam Darnold go at it. But I think Carolina being comfortable at home, having the opportunity to playing against New Orleans with a new quarterback, it'll be interesting to see this. I'm going to take Panthers 3.5, and I think this will be still a tough game because after Jameis's performance last week, I think they're going to continue that with their offense. I'm going to take them 28-24. Carolina's going to win home. 4-point margin. I like the score. Talk about a Denver defense that gave Daniel Jones a ton of problems last week. I'm going to take the Denver at -6 on the road in Jacksonville. First of all, it was a tough outing for Trevor Lawrence for one. And again, Jacksonville, don't give up on the process yet because it's only going to get better and better as time rolls on. But it's a tough outing, and this is back-to-back weeks against, you got a Houston defense that was all over Trevor Lawrence, and you're going to be facing against Denver, who only allowed 13 points to the Giants last week. This is not going to be easy for Jacksonville to really put up points against this Denver defense that is healthier, it's better, it's faster, and that's going to be the repertoire. And by the way, Teddy Bridgewater looked really good. He looked really good. He executed plays. Now, despite this, they're without Jerry Jeudy, but that's not going to be a problem. They got KJ Hamler, and they have a couple of other options. I'm going to take Denver -6, and I'm going to make it a 27-20 win on the road against Jacksonville. I still do think Trevor Lawrence may put some points up, but not going to be that easy against this Denver defense. All right, first of all, I'm really confident in taking the Arizona Cardinals at -4 after the performance I saw last week against Tennessee. And by the way, Minnesota had a real good game, but after that loss against Cincinnati is just telling you several things of what you needed to know about the Vikings. Arizona completely pummeled Ryan Tannehill in this offense. That was a great showing for Chandler Jones last week. And only thing is as I've said before, it's a do-or-die season right now for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray looked really comfortable in the pocket, and he had a lot of really good throws to all of his offensive weapons. So Arizona, you're facing a rebuilding Minnesota Vikings defense that the only people outside of Anthony Barr and Daniel Hunter and Harrison Smith, there's really not a whole lot that I could really be amped up for that Minnesota defense, and it's only going to come down to situational football. So I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals to win at home in Phoenix, 28-23. Man, they're riding off of that really good win against Tennessee last week. I don't think this is any hesitation right now. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 12.5. Atlanta was atrocious last week against Philadelphia, and this just shows you once Arthur Smith, this just shows you that there's a lot of things that they need to work on this offense, and Atlanta needs to play better than what they were last week. They really need to, but back-to-backs where you're coming off ugly losses against Philadelphia. Not going to be that easy against Tom and this stacked up Tampa Bay defense. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers to win 30-17 at home. Tampa's going to have a field day this week. I explained a lot of what I needed to, but you know what? It's panning out. I loved what I saw this past week from the Chargers. I'm going to take that -3 at home against Dallas. Here's a couple headliners, okay? There's a couple things you need to know that are important. First of all, Dallas is without DeMarcus Lawrence, their star pass rusher for 6 to 8 weeks for a foot injury. They're without their big-time pass rusher. That's a problem. Here's another thing. The Chargers against a tough Washington defense only gave up 12% of pressure to Justin Herbert. This offensive line is tough. Rashawn Slater in 49 snaps against Chase Young, 0 sacks, 0 hurries, and 0 pressures. This tells me that, like last year with Tampa, when they got Tristan Wirfs, he was a really good proven offensive tackle. So to me, the Chargers and Justin Herbert is in really good company. And he had plenty of time to throw to a lot of his tough offensive weapons. They'll be healthy again this next week. And to play against Dallas at home in SoFi, last time they won was 2017. Now, I'm not going to jinx it, but I do love what this core is looking like. I'm going to take the Chargers to win. It's going to be a field day for Justin Herbert against that secondary that's just I don't trust this Dallas secondary. I feel like they're going to get burnt a lot, but I do like their offense, okay? That's the only reason they're going to put up some points. So I'm going to make it a 28-24. Chargers win at home in SoFi, but Dallas is going to have struggles on defense because they're without their star pass rusher. After a tough loss against Arizona last week, Tennessee did not have much to show for. I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks at -5.5. Tennessee is showing you why Arthur Smith was so important with their offense. Now, there are going to be a lot of adjustments to be made, but here's the break. Seattle, I'm not sure exactly who I trust on their pass rush. So I feel like Tennessee is getting a break. But Seattle and Russell Wilson, he's opening up spots for DK Metcalf. It is not going to be that easy against that offense. So this defense, the secondaries, they're going to have a tough time trying to cover DK Metcalf. I'm going to take Seattle to win at home, 28-21. Tennessee's going to come across back-to-back losses, but they're going to need to figure some things out quick if they really want to compete in that South. Big-time Sunday night game between Kansas City and Baltimore. So 2 back-to-back primetime games for Lamar Jackson. That's going to be difficult, especially when you've got an injury-brittled Baltimore team. I'm going to take Kansas City on the road at 3.5. Baltimore, like I said, they're 0-3 against Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson 30-5 against everyone else. But despite that, with the injuries, this just tells you that you've got to give Lamar Jackson a lead if you really want Baltimore to win this game, but it's not that easy. It's not that easy against Patrick Mahomes and a stacked offense. They're going to try to score any and all ways that they can. I'm not sure what the health status is for Marlon Humphrey, but they were not really good on defense. It just tells you that they're lacking a lot of important pieces right now because of injuries, and it's showing for itself. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win 30-23 on the road in Baltimore. I just think it's going to be a really good game on a Sunday night, but that's going to be tough for back-to-back prime times for Lamar Jackson. Prime time game for Aaron Rodgers. I hope he comes in a Monday night prepared this time, because that was absolutely embarrassing how he played last week against New Orleans. I think they're pissed off at how they performed. I'm going to take Green Bay and minus 10.5. By the way, it was actually a pretty good showing for Detroit last week against San Francisco. And San Francisco let off a lot when it came to the rushes for DeAndre Swift. But Green Bay, I am hoping that they are going to come back better and focused. Aaron Rodgers, as I know, arrogant Aaron. There was so many different headliners, but this is no excuses. You're going into Lambeau. You're going into Green Bay. You better be better against your home fans, because that's not going to be easy. So I'm going to take Green Bay to win 33-20 against Detroit at home. But Aaron, I better see something better this week against Detroit. No excuses. 10.5, that's a risk. Don't disappoint. All my bets here are provided by Thrive Fantasy. And as I mentioned, sign up now when you go to thrivefantasy.com and use promo code SS Network, and they can turn in your $20 into $50 into your first play. So much really to go around. And like I said, Prime Predictions is only going to get better. Man, last week, it was an unpredictable week. It always is. But at the very least, we had a couple hits. So I'm trusting a little bit more upon that. I feel like I know what I'm going to get with at least a couple of these storylines, but some things might change by the time we get to week 5. So thank you guys so much for watching here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. I hope you guys have a great week and a great weekend. And like I said, I'm going to be doing my live stream play-by-plays as well when the week comes on. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy Thursday night and enjoy this weekend. And we will see you guys next Monday on the Snake Sports Talk Show. And we are only 2 episodes away from episode 100, guys. It has been quite the grind. And man, I cannot wait. There's gonna be fun stuff to come. You guys do not want to miss out on it. I'm gonna have more news on that come next week on Monday. So take care. Have a great week. Have a great night. And we'll see you guys next week on Monday. Take care.